now that I've been in the industry a while and I spend most of my time sitting across the table from clients, their biggest concern is my paycheck's gone. Where's my money going to come from? Everyone thinks about this. They think about where's their money going to come from, no matter what their scenario is.
Where is your money going to come from in retirement? Do you have a plan on how you're going to spend that money? And do you know where that money is going to come from that you'll be spending? When did this whole concept of retirement come into existence? And what are some of the different approaches when it comes to retirement of people from different generations? And most importantly, how can we get our hands on those delicious market day chocolate pudding cakes? Well, friends, I encourage you to listen to today's show. Your host is Josh Bretl. His show is the Retirement Equals Freedom podcast. And for the last 18 years, he's been helping people just like you thrive in their retirement. And now it's time for you to enjoy the show.
I'm going to start with a story. I got a story that I want to start with.
Okay.
By the way, we've been recording for a few seconds now. But you remember when we were young and we'd go over to your house and we'd hang out, we'd watch sports and play video games and just kind of hang out in your living room?
Fondly, yes, I do.
And after being at your house for like a year, I realized that you had the creepiest basement in the world.
Fact.
In this creepy basement, you had a freezer that was full of chocolate puddin cakes.
Oh, market day. Yes, yes.
And your father used to like hold them up like it was a carrot on a stick and I was a rabbit. Like, come do this, you can have a chocolate puddin cake. And it was, but we love those chocolate puddin cakes. What would you give today for a chocolate puddin cake?
You actually, the note I just jot down was post podcast recording, go to marketday.com and see if they have pudding cakes still for sale. Because, man, those were good.
There isn't a kid that grew up by us that didn't love chocolate puddin cakes.
Oh, 100%. And, my mom, she didn't cook. She just cooked market day every night. So, like, that is very near and dear to my heart.
I think that is a lot of moms. I mean, the chicken, we used to call them chicken pucks in our house. Like, mom's making chicken pucks for dinner.
Oh, so, okay. One of probably the most underrated item from Market Day was the full-size bagel dogs.
Oh, those were fantastic. Oh.
They had the poppy seeds on top, and it was like my goodness. Like, why they discontinued those, I'm telling you, there's a podcast just on that topic alone. Who made the decision to pull that from the menu and why?
Market Day may be half the reason we're fat.
Oh, I'm going to go with 63% of the reason we're fat. Because those mini bagel dogs you get at like Jewel, they're not as satisfying. So anyways, your story about pudding cakes.
No, my story about pudding cakes. We don't have pudding cakes anymore. And now my wife and I, we've been together over 20 years, and she grew up in a house that loved Market Day. If her mother didn't cook it, if it couldn't be, come from Market Day, or that was like the rest of us. And the number one thing that she cooks is chocolate brownies. And she swears it just comes from a box. Like, it just is a box mix, but she does something to it, and she doesn't tell us, or she doesn't even know what it is, but they're out of this world. And to me, they're like my chocolate pudding cake replacement.
Got it.
And when she makes them, she cuts them into little tiny brownie pieces. So instead of eating just one pudding cake, I eat 15 little tiny chocolate brownies.
Okay, so I used to be like a scientist, and like if you eat 15 small ones, technically there's no calories or fat. Like That's truth. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But by the way, as you're telling that story, Josh, I am at marketdaylocal.com and they have Nemo's chocolate pudding cakes, $18 for a box of 12. Let's get our wives on this. They can get this for us.
Dave, I'm thinking this might be our first podcast contest. Somehow we'll develop a pudding cake giveaway.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
But
it sounds lovely.
But yeah, yes, they're frozen. So you have to be local to the Chicagoland area. Come pick it up and we'll enjoy a pudding cake together. You know, it's funny. I was just watching like some tips on like how to engage podcast viewers and video viewers, and what we're doing is the total opposite of that. Like, they're like, don't tell stories, just get right to it, and we're like telling stories about pudding cakes. So luckily your producer can edit stuff.
You wouldn't think that the Retirement Equals Freedom podcast would open up talking for 5 minutes about Market Day pudding cakes, but yet we did.
We find a way.
So, well,
all right. So we're doing podcast episode 3, and I am curious, what are we talking about today, Josh?
Well, today I really, wanted to talk about income in retirement. And my father, when I, was young in the industry, he used to always say, financial planning is nothing but cash flow planning. And it was kind of one of those things that I just looked at him like, okay, I don't really know what that means, but sure. And now that I've been in the industry a while and I spend most of my time sitting across the table from clients, their biggest concern is my paycheck's gone. Where's my money going to come from? And so, like we replaced pudding cakes with my mother-in-law's 15 brownies, I wanted to talk
There it is. There it is.
Beautiful connection. You like that?
Oh my God. Glorious. Yes.
I wanted to get into how people should be thinking about income replacement in retirement. What do you think of that? Doesn't that sound riveting?
I like it. I like it.
This is the one area that I've noticed that has a huge impact in making people comfortable. So I can talk all about the stock market. I can talk all about the taxes. We can talk about Social Security. We can talk about Medicare. We can talk about anything we want to. But it's if we can figure out how someone's income can be consistent and safe and secure, all of a sudden you feel this, you can see the comfort come back in their face. So this is a big topic. And in fact, I think what we'll probably do, Dave, is we'll probably spend many episodes in the future talking about different subsets, because I'm just going to brush on the real surface level, if you will, on the income topic today.
And I think this is an opportunity to also talk to other people how they've replaced their income, because I have a question right off the bat I'll ask you later on down the road, but I can imagine my dad is going to be one of those people who is like, how the heck do I replace my income? So carry on.
Everyone thinks about this. They think about where's their money going to come from, no matter what their scenario is. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the traditional method. In fact, my grandfather, he's been gone now for over 10 years. But when he grew up, his idea, he was going to work for one company for his entire life, and that company would take care of him with a pension. And that was it. They didn't have to worry about saving too much. That was the idea. Pensions are all but gone. And what we generally tell people is there's a 3-legged stool when it comes towards retirement. And there's 3 legs to this. And the first leg is Social Security. Social Security, for most people, is going to play a major role in your retirement. I mean, there's very few people I talk to that Social Security doesn't play a major role. Even for people like, we have a lot of teachers as clients. In Illinois, teachers don't pay into Social Security. Well, you know what? It does impact their spouses if they're married. There are things that a lot of times Social Security will still come into play. Make sense? And
we could do a teacher.
Yeah. I mean, we could do hours and hours on just Social Security alone. But the other area that people have is some sort of this leg used to be bigger with some sort of fixed income, some sort of pension, some sort of guaranteed income in addition to Social Security. And this could have been a pension. This could have been an annuity. This could have been, something else. And the third leg is the savings. And what's happened is different people have different sizes of those different legs. So your wife is a teacher, or my mother is a teacher. Now, my mother was a unique teacher because she also worked outside the school district and has Social Security. But their pensions are higher and their Social Security is smaller. Some people, we were talking about your dad before this. Your dad's an independent contractor for the most part. He's gotten by, working on his own. Well, he's not going to have the pension. That could be almost zero. His Social Security might be a little bit lower, but hopefully he's got the higher third leg of the stool.
Which is savings, like you mentioned, right? That was the
Correct.
third leg?
Correct. But where it comes from is important. And you and I are big wearers of pants, and we wear pants every day. Mm-hmm.
Most days.
You do work out of your basement. No, for those of you, this is Dave's fancy T-shirt. For those of you that are watching on video with us,
I was hoping you're gonna. This is another Duluth Trading T-shirt. It's got a big lumberjack on the back of it, which is the antithesis of what I am, but it's who I kind of want to be one day, is a big rough lumberjack. You didn't ask me about my T-shirt. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, 3 episodes in, 3 mentions of your T-shirt. But when Dave comes into our office, I almost want to have Dave stand up and show us his pants. But when Dave comes into our office is dressed in shirts and ties and different things. And we see Dave, and Dave usually has cargo pants on or cargo shorts and maybe a nice T-shirt. And the cargo pants have lots of pockets on them. And, we all have pockets in our pants. And instead of using the stools on the leg analogy, I like to use pockets on your pants. And we all have different pant pockets. Dave, the smile on your face tells me I'm rambling here, but we can have money in every pocket. So one pocket may be your IRA, one pocket may be your savings account, one pocket may be your 401k, one pocket may be your pension, one pocket may be your Roth IRA, one pocket may be your Social Security. And yeah, there's lots of pockets. Lots of pockets. People have different amounts of pockets. You come in, you carry lots of pockets. I don't carry as many pockets as you do.
That's fair.
But when you go to a store, in retirement, when you go to a store and you want to buy something. So let's say you go to, the local Dairy Queen and you buy a giant freaking Blizzard. Then whatever they say, it's going to be $5. The person at Dairy Queen doesn't care where your money comes from. They don't care which pocket you take it out of. But it does matter to you as a retiree. It matters to you. So you need to understand, if your end goal is for your money to last your entire life, if your end goal is not to run out of money, if you don't want to live in your child's basement, and I've seen Dave's basement, Mr. Schmidt, you don't want to live there. You need to think about, where money is going to come from. So corresponding where money comes from is going to be important. So should you take it out of your IRA pocket? Should you take it out of your Social Security pocket? Should you take it out of your checking account pocket? And having a plan for that. Now the analogy holds true for one $5 Blizzard, but if you're spending $40, $50, $60, $120,000 a year, understanding where you're going to get money from is extremely important. So here's the big thing. Here's what I tell every single person. When you're working, you have a paycheck. You know where your money's going to come from.
Sure.
Okay. When you're not working, that paycheck isn't there, or it isn't as big as it used to be. You need to have a written plan of exactly where money's going to come from. And the closer we are to now, the more definitive we are in that plan. So we should know without a doubt within the next 2 years, if you're retired, this is where money's going to come from. Years 3 through 5, we've got a pretty good idea. And years 5 and on, we have a conceptual, this is how it's going to happen if this way, this is how it's going to happen if this way, but it's kind of like a big waterfall. And as we move through time, we have to make sure that our next 1 to 2 years are always definitive. We know where money's going to come from. So when I tell people in retirement that we have to think about, where money's going to come from, you actually have to have it written down. You don't have that paycheck anymore. You don't have that, hey, every month, every week, every other week, I'm going to get X dollars. You need to know this is where it's going to come from. Doesn't that sound like fun, Dave?
It does sound like fun. Well, it just has me thinking, like, how many of your clients are entrepreneurs or freelancers or even self-employed? And I just think, because I'm in that boat. Now, I'm 41. I'm not saying I'm a young by any means, but you saying that you have to have a plan to be able to replace income I have now if I ever to sell a business or just stop working, that scares me because I haven't thought about that. So I'm like, do you have clients in similar positions, and how do they plan for this stuff? Do they just feel like they're going to be an entrepreneur until the day they die, and they'll always have some sort of income coming in? Or I don't know, I guess what I'm asking is, at what age do you start helping people kind of like figure this out?
All right, you ready for me to get really deep with this? We're going to go deep. We're going to get really zenned out
Deep
here.
Deep Thoughts by Josh Bretl.
Retirement is not natural. The stoppage of work is actually something relatively new. It started in Germany back in the late 1800s. Germany had a problem, and the problem was too many old people, and too many old people were working. And it was specifically in the railroad. There was, I think it was Bismarck, Chancellor Bismarck. The young people couldn't get jobs because people were just living longer, and there was no jobs for those young people. So Bismarck set an arbitrary line in the sand, and he just picked the age 65. There was no rhyme or reason. He used this age 65. And what he said is, if you're over 65, you're now retired. The government will take care of you from this point forward. Those who are younger come fill in those jobs so that you can work. That was the first time in human history that we've actually had retirement, quote unquote retirement. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, 1800s, huh?
yeah, isn't that kind of weird? I mean, other than that,
Yeah.
people worked till they died. Like, that was just what they did. And your question about entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, if they think about it right, have it a little bit easier. Because they're used to working for themselves. They're used to finding that paycheck. They're used to that money coming in the door. Now, we always encourage them to make it easier. You need to have that pile of savings, because most entrepreneurs don't want to work as hard as they are now. But they're always willing to do a little bit. They're always willing to do something, to get something going. They like that feeling.
They're scrappy. They're scrappy.
Yeah, right. I would argue it's almost harder for the people that weren't entrepreneurs, that were used to a big company that paid their paycheck regularly. It's a harder mindset shift for that than it is for the pure entrepreneurs. But it's harder sometimes because entrepreneurs aren't always good savers. They reinvest back in themselves.
Do you think it's harder for those that are employed by an employee too, because they have the same income? They're not really able to make more. Of course, there's side hustles and there's whatnot, but like, I know, like, as an entrepreneur or a business owner, like, if I want to increase my income, I can do it.
Careful, your wife's listening to this.
I know. Well, I'm not saying me. I'm saying, like, that mindset. Do you think that that's legitimate, or do you not think people think like that?
No, I definitely think they do. We're going to do a whole episode at some point. I talked about this book earlier on the psychology of money, and how people think about money is ingrained in their retirement. In fact, when people come in and talk to me, one of the first time we sit down and talk, I'm trying to figure out what's their brain telling them, where do they come from, what is their upbringing like, and we all have not just what we do for a living, but we all have different experiences growing up. What was money like for you as a child? Was it hard to get money? Did your parents suffer? Was it easy? Did you not know the value of savings? I mean, there's all sorts of different things that are out there. So the entrepreneurial mindset, it is a tough one. It's just one of those words.
It's one of those words. It's tough. I don't know if this is going to be a podcast topic or not, but like right now we're recording this February 2022, and there's this big thing called the Great Resignation, right? Where I don't buy into the whole branding of that phrase, but I feel like the pandemic has taught people, especially of our age group, like, there's more to life than just working 9 to 5. And I was reading this pretty cool stat. I think it was on Forbes. It was something like an estimated 48% of people started a side hustle during, 2020 and 2021. And of that 48%, like 25% actually made money or are going to continue doing it. And I think that's just the mindset of especially people like our age. Like, we can have more fun with our jobs, make more money if we go do it on our own. We don't have to answer to the man. I don't know where I was going with this, but I think it has ties.
I'm going to take it from you, Dave, and I'm going to
income.
slam it home because I think
All
you
right.
set it up perfectly.
Thank
The
you.
very first episode, we talked about how do we name the Retirement Equals Freedom podcast? Like, why do we say retirement equals freedom? And most of the retirees right now are baby boomers. They're used to that 9 to 5, wake up, save, put money in the 401k, wake up, save, put money in the 401k. At some day, you'll be able to retire. And in their mind, they've equated that to freedom. They've equated that to this happiness, this freedom, this I'm no longer going to have to work. And this great resignation, as you talk about it, is kind of taking them into a world of they're not waiting. They're doing it sooner. They realize we may be getting away from that Bismarck mentality of retirement. People may say, hey, I really love what I do. The reason they resigned was so they could find something that they're passionate about and make money at. And that's a really cool thing as an economy to be in that state that we can do that. So I'm hopeful that great resignation, that great thought process is going to lead to more of a why am I at a loss of words now? But it's going to lead to more of
Power dynamic,
happiness,
just like a shift.
a shift in that retirement mindset, because we're going to live longer and longer. As we get older, we're going to live longer and longer, and it's going to require more money. It's going to require more economies. And this is kind of another freaky thing. Our population is actually shrinking. And so we demand a lot as a population. And so instead of people having to retire so that younger people are going to get jobs, we're going to have people work longer so that we can continue the level of services that we're used to. So I think it's a pretty big demographic switch. I think there's a lot of changes happening. But for the baby boomers who are retiring now and the older Gen Xers, they never had that mindset. And so they have that mindset of income replacement. So I hope in the future it's not as big of a deal, but that was a fun question.
Yeah, I think of our buddy Brent, who is just, we hate him and love him because he's like the perfect guy. And he just is like, oh, during the pandemic, I'm going to pick up woodworking. And oh, look, I just built this massive play set for my kids. Oh, I built bunk beds. Now I'm building shuffleboard tables for people. Like, come on, man. Like, what else are you going to be good at? But that's a little side hustle. I don't know if he's actually pursuing it as a side hustle, but he probably could because he's perfect at everything. Jerk. I'm not wrong, though.
Brent, Dave would like a shuffleball table if you could board table, if you could make it for him. But
listen, I would.
No, back to I'm not going to tie it back to Puddin Cakes, but I'll tie it back to my father, where he says, everything is cash flow management. It's truly what it is. Financial planning, retirement planning is managing cash flow. It's managing income. And be it from a side hustle that you've just grown into something that you love, or be it as in you're truly that quote unquote retired, how are you going to replace that paycheck? And I will argue that having some guarantees built in are going to make people feel really good compared to the volatility that we have all out there. So I think we can we put a lot of stuff out in today's podcast that we could dig into with a lot of depth. So
no, for sure. And you know who we're going to have as one of our first guests? Mike Rowe. He'll join our podcast because he's got great insights into the whole, baby boomers and all this. But you think he'll join our podcast? I did buy 2 of his bottles of whiskey. Did I tell you that?
No, but as long as the one listener, your mother, says yes, I'd like to listen to him, I'm sure he'd jump right. It would be worth his time in a heartbeat.
Listen, Bex has got some influence over people. She just does. So, yeah, maybe we should. Oh man, so many ideas, Josh. Like I'm talking about whiskey here with Mike Rowe's label that he did. We could do like happy hour on the Retirement Equals Freedom podcast and like taste different bourbons and things while we talk. Am I wrong?
We spent 5 minutes talking about pudding cakes today. What is bourbon tasting going to lead us to?
Well, look, we may have to push the start time of our recording back a few hours because it's a little early for bourbon. I'm not judging if you do drink bourbon at 10 a.m.
There is someone in an airport right now drinking bourbon.
Probably Bill Schultz. Flying first class, having bourbon. Oh, hey,
Bill is his brother-in-law, by the way. Don't think Dave's just calling people out. So
just calling people out.
Hi,
yeah.
Billy.
Billy, he will subscribe. He works out as much as Brent. He needs something to listen to when he works out.
Oh man, they won't eat pudding cakes though, Dave.
Oh, he's too healthy.
If you come into our office and you scream pudding cake, we'll find some for you somewhere, somehow. I don't know how.
We'll keep a box in the freezer.
We will.
All right, we're running on. So with that, I say bye.
Bye.